No one's untouchable.
Alright, hello and welcome to the first ever edition of IOI Monthly. My name is Travis, I'm your community manager here at the studio. This is Bjarne. Bjarne is one of the level designers we have here, and we'll be talking to Bjarne a little bit later on about Hantu Port, where you were the primary level designer. So we'll get into that. We know there's audio issues with the trailer, but we're good now. I'm getting thumbs up and chat is saying good. Cool. So before we jump in, I just want to give you guys a little shout out about what we're going to be doing with IOI Monthly. We kind of see it as a rebranding, a refresh of the live streams that we've been doing, where we kind of took stock of the streams that we had been doing, sometimes quite weekly, and shifting everything to, as the name suggests, a monthly approach. So we're looking to pack more into the streams, have more interesting and more announcements in them, having some reveals, having basically things that players can't get anywhere else. So if you want to know the latest news about Hitman, we want IOI Monthly to be kind of a place where you look forward to seeing what we've got to say. So we're starting off with you, Bjarne, no pressure whatsoever, to talk about Hantu Port, which is the next location that's coming out, Sniper Assassin map. We're expanding that game mode with an entirely new map. It's coming only for expansion pass owners, so this is an interesting move for people that went for the gold edition. They've had some suits and they've had some weapons already. Yeah. Now they get something properly playable, a first new map that they can get their teeth into. We've already announced this already. This came out last week, I think it was, yeah, where we put the trailer out on Thursday. And for this stream we're going to talk about a few things. So obviously we're going to start with Hantu Port. Then we're going to jump into kind of a bit of the process of how you went about making it, developing it. We'll talk about some of the insights and the journeys that you went on, both yourself but also as the team, and how various parts of the team came together to make this happen. After that, we're going to look at the March game update, so the patch that we've got coming out, some highlights from that that's set behind me here. And we've also got a sneak peek ahead to the April roadmap, which normally we announce these at the start of the month. Maybe with the monthly stream format, we can do that at the end of the month. So there's something clear there that is a flagpole that, hey, this is something new. This is the first reveal we'll have of something coming up. That's really exciting. But before we get into that, Bjarne, and before we give you the chance to talk about Hantu Port, I want to jump into the announcement trailer, and fingers crossed for sound. This is what we showed last week, and we'll play that for you guys right now. In just a second.
Just a second.
So we've got a technical director behind the screen making everything happen, and as soon as he gives me the thumbs up, we're good to go. Here's the trailer.
Good afternoon, 47. Han Ledong has been kidnapped from his suburban home. Your targets are Jin Nu, Lom Kwai, and Ri Thak. The targets are preparing to transfer Ledong and his wife to an awaiting cargo ship. Keep this one quiet, 47.
Alright, so that's the trailer that we showed you guys last week, but obviously you've already seen that. So one thing that we want to do now is to bring you in, Bjarne, properly, because right now it's just me talking, right? So we want to look at Hantu Port. We've seen the trailer. What we want to do is we want to show some of the progress that we went through. So from that shiny trailer, if we can pull that up for our viewers right now, a screenshot that was from relatively near the beginning of Hantu Port. And I guess as we start this conversation, let's bring you in about being a level designer and the sort of things that you are responsible for, and what you've done to make the images that we see happen. So this was quite a long time ago that you did this. but it should look familiar for players that have played Sniper Assassin. There is obviously the targets at the bottom and the clock. You can see the rifle and the weapons. And right now the targets don't even have names. They are just eliminate 0, 0, and 0. But this screenshot is, I mean, how would you describe what this shows?
I mean, it feels like ages ago. This is one of the early, like an early screenshot I did. There was some work done before that where I tried to just, it's sort of about getting a feel for the space and just mocking up like where you want to go.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff I did earlier before this was something like where like the first thing I did was about 20 times too big, and then the second thing I did was way too small. So it's like trying to sort of get to grips with dimensions of the map and what it can do in a Sniper Assassin mode.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing here is really rough sort of mock-up of just some to get a feel of the space for the harbor, right? So you're seeing you might recognize the what's it called, the hangar building from the tutorial levels. There's some containers from different maps, some Indian trains. There's some, I think the boats are from Bangkok maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's basically the crane from Mumbai. There's just a ton of stuff to go in and just get some feeling for what's going on, and some initial loops, like what do you want to do here.
Yeah, so these are like the first steps to what you need to do when you know, okay, we're making a location in a port or a harbor or that sort of location, that sort of vibe. You pull things together, you make it kind of resemble something that you start to imagine the pieces come together, right? Already just seeing something like this.
Yeah, and of course I went back and played Himmelstein. I've actually played that a lot when it launched, but I went back and played that as well.
Yeah.
I played the iPad Sniper.
Yeah.
Also played some old Absolution stuff, and I forget the name right now, the Patient Zero Colorado Sniper.
Yes, the
well.
Vector. Yeah.
So I went back, played all these things, and also tried to get an idea of what this map should sort of be about.
Okay.
And yeah, so I also thought that so this is the second map for Sniper Assassin, and it's sort of its own little thing within the Hitman universe. So I figured I wanted to do a map that was a big contrast to Himmelstein, both in like terms of feeling. Like Himmelstein is sort of high class, it's bright, sunny, and Hantu Port, as people have seen from the trailer as well, is dark, it's gritty, it's more serious stuff going on. And then I really wanted to experiment with making the environment kills more utilized, or more like because that was the thing I thought with Himmelstein great as was that the environmental kills and the accidents was a little bit hard to pull off without being spotted. So I tried to really make this into sort of a health and safety inspector's worst nightmare. Well, a bit of a tagline for it.
Like most Hitman things, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so if we jump to the next shot, we can talk a little bit about how it might progress and how it would change through time.
I think this one was where you can see the building has been replaced with more mock-up, trying to get a feel. I can't remember, I think it lost a floor at this point as well.
Yeah.
And basically just continue playing around with the shapes. To just get a feel of like height, like how far can you look up, how far can you look to the sides. What would be interesting in terms of this gameplay space, what you can see, right?
Yeah. And was it important, you think, to have like now you said that the building is in there? Is it important to have? Do you need like landmarks, or do you need? Because I imagine it's also being built with co-op in mind. So you need to say like I'm shooting in the building or the boat or by the water or those sorts of things.
It's definitely important that you can sort of recognize certain places or call them out in a certain way. But it's also something like the building was also just to have sort of an edge to the level, like a what do you call it, like a back.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like a flat harbor, because that could be hard to work with in terms of making it interesting, right?
Sure.
So to get some stuff in there, and this building we played around with, like trying to have some offices and also trying to figure out like who the targets are, what are they doing, what kind of roles could they have, these three targets.
Okay. So if we jump to the next screen, I think we can take a slightly closer look at the building itself. And maybe you can talk a little about some of the early ideas, or the different gameplay that you have when you have a building compared to a flat level that you said you wanted to avoid, especially when it's regards to a sniper map.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of it's inspired by some of the Himmelstein layouts as well, where you have this nice palace and sort of like framing the whole thing. So so what you see here is a really rough mock-up of these targets. Are the ones you see on the outside are just basically just walking between 2 points. with these windows you can shoot them through, and if you can spot some doors, that was experimentation with some having these small offices that you could shoot people in through the doors. And then at the bottom playing around with these sort of we call it like cargo doors thing. Right?
Oh, like the ones that like lift up?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, right.
See if we can make some fun with that.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's on the bottom floor there. There's like some doors,
floor,
right? Yeah. Okay, so if we jump to the next shot, we can see kind of how the level progresses. And I think it's important to say that these are screenshots that you took throughout the development, just for your own reference, just to see how things progressed. And it just turned out that, we put them on the stream when we weren't planning this all that time ago. It was just a really nice way to kind of say, okay, this is how, somebody like yourself starts the level, and later on we'll see how it all comes together.
Yeah, it was a tool for myself to be, because you can maybe tell a lot of stuff moves around, and it happens really quickly. It's very
the building, for example, just moved, right?
Yeah. And there's suddenly a big ship and everything. So it was more sort of an idea of like, if I did something where I would think it went in the wrong direction, I could always just look at my screenshot and be like, okay, this was maybe a better idea, and then kind of go back.
Okay, that makes sense.
That never happened, but it was sort of a fail-safe thing for me. So what you see now is that we get the big ship in, actually. Could you go one back, Clemens? So what you actually see here is as far as I remember, that is an Absolution ship.
The ship on the right-hand side here, yeah?
That's when we start playing around with having this big container ship.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a discussion, like, should we have it in there? But it really worked out and frames the level nicely, right?
Yeah.
So, and then it's just, because it doesn't have collision, so it's just wrapped in all these like mock-up boxes to make sure that they could actually walk around in it.
Okay, right.
That's why it looks a bit weird. Yeah.
And then when we move on to the next screen, the ship looks entirely different. Why is that? What's happened in that process there?
This is environment art has started here on actually building the ship.
Right.
From scratch. So what you're seeing is sort of the first gray box of that.
Right.
And then plug in some containers to see spacing as well for the level or for the ship. Like how does it fit into everything?
Yeah.
So you might be able to tell the crane and the building keeps sort of moving around.
Yeah.
They kept sort of like just shuffling around and trying to figure out like distance to things. And then.
Okay, then this is a big jump.
Yeah.
So from the previous shot where everything was white box, grey box, and there was environment art that was starting to come through, I'm guessing this is where a lot more clearly has come through, because the visual difference is dramatic here. Can you talk about the difference between them? And when we were looking at the dates you took these screenshots, there was about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But that's not to say, I think it's important to stress that it's not like the level changed that much in those 2 weeks. There's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. Maybe you can talk about that process a little bit.
Yeah, there's like what you saw before was essentially my little playground where I was just shuffling stuff around and testing out characters and all this stuff, sort of placement.
Yeah.
While that sort of happens, I'm also talking to, for example, animators about what animations, like there's this dialogue with all these different departments where we discuss sort of the ideas and ping pong a bit on that.
Yeah.
And like environment artists, as far as I remember, worked in a separate scene to get the whole sort of work on sort of backdrop and lighting and all these kind of things. Environment art worked on the ship continuously and did experiments with these container cranes and all this stuff. We had the gameplay working on all these set pieces. So we were ping-ponging a bit on that back and forth. So at the end of the day, like all of a sudden it starts merging, right? Character artists are doing the character art, and it's actually often like it takes a while before we see them in the level. So they've been doing concepts and then started creating the characters, and then all of a sudden, which is a bit of a joy with my work, is like one day you come in, you get the latest build and you boot up the editor, and then all of a sudden there's like these awesome characters in there. Or a new animation or a functional, all these things that just start merging together into the level.
So there's definitely teams working in parallel, and then eventually all that work kind of mixes together, which is why what you see changes within 2 weeks, but the entire team has been working on it about the same time as you, and then at a certain point the paths meet into one where it then moves forward from there, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And you can also see, I mean, as we get to this part now, it's interesting to note that previously we had at the top left the targets. We didn't have the objective now, which again, it's a placeholder for this point where it's talking about do not eliminate the constant.
Yeah.
Is this somehow the point where you introduce the hostages? Is that why that objective is there?
Yes. That was actually sort of a placeholder objective for that. It's we've done all these things before, and so it's really a great help to be able to go back into sort of our toolbox and be able to reuse some functionality for mocking up and for placeholder. For a long time as well, the 3 targets on this level were the Yardbirds.
Right, from the other sniper assassin map,
So that was a bit like when the new ones, when the real ones came in, it was almost a bit weird for me because I've been seeing them for so long, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it's not the Yardbirds anymore.
No. And then this is one of the later shots that we had that was still quite away from being finished. I mean, one interesting thing is that when, I would imagine that non-game designers or people that are not involved in the production of video games would maybe see shots like this and think, okay, that looks done, it looks ready. But to your eyes, like something from the last few shots, what sort of things would be like the finishing touches, or what's obviously other than the UI text? I mean, more like visually or in terms of as a level designer in the last few months, what are you working on to make sure the level's ready?
Well, that's true because like
it looks ready, right?
Exactly. At some point, you hit something where it looks like it's very close to being done, which is rarely the case. Right? So what I'm working on in this situation is, for example, the layout of the playable area. In this case, sort of all the layout of where they move around. The sort of the loops of all the targets, what they're doing, setting up like the hostage situation, all that stuff, making it work, making it solid. Adding all these, as I mentioned, all these various accident kills and ways to hide the bodies, and basically getting all these things set up, and making sure that they work. And obviously, the last period is polishing everything and bug fixing everything, and then getting it to launch.
Is there ever a point when you mentioned that you come into work and you launch the editor and you're like, oh, this has changed? What are some of the biggest changes that as a level designer you see and think, oh wow, that's cool, that's in? Is it like something visually? Is it the audio? Is it lighting? Is there one thing that's like, wow, that makes a big difference?
There is, it kind of depends. Like there is a lot of things. Sometimes it's the lighting. You come in and there's just been done this lighting pass and it's like, oh wow, it looks amazing, right? And sometimes it's like, on this as well, also as on regular levels, when sometimes you come in and then the voice actors have been recorded and have been added to the game, and then all of a sudden everybody is talking like real, instead of this robo voice placeholder that we normally use. Right? So that's also a big change. And once when you got 47's voice in, that's always a bit chilling.
Of course,
Right, and Diana as well, like all these speaks. But yeah, I think so. This was made over. Also over Christmas, right? So I was gone for a Christmas vacation, and coming back from that, there was like such a massive change. A lot of changes. Like, it almost felt like coming back to, hey, you finished the level.
Yeah, right. Cool. So the last thing we're seeing now is the what we in marketing call the key visual. This is the shot that we use mostly to kind of show you the location. We know we've got one picture, one image that we want you to kind of think of all the time when you see it. That is what Hantu Port is. That's what it's about. That's the vibe. That's the setting. And you might have noticed that the last 2 shots were kind of the same. Only one of them is the view that you would see as the designer, and then we kind of slightly changed the view, and we need to bring 47 more to the forefront. If we just took a screenshot, it wouldn't look that cool as a marketing shot. It needs to kind of show you both him being cool and kind of on the side with the rifle, but also the location as well, looking really interesting. There's one other thing that I wanted to jump into that we kind of talked about earlier before the stream was, as you're seeing these changes come in, whether it's the audio or maybe some of the visuals or the props or whatever these things are that were not there the day before, do you ever then have new ideas or change direction for certain areas based on that? Does that ever happen?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Because definitely it's sometimes like, let's say the gameplay guys make a cool set piece and we get that in and start playing with it, and sometimes new ideas just spawn from that, right?
Yeah.
And also like when you talk with animation and sometimes like these departments also when we ping pong ideas, they come with their own ideas. So it's like, okay, that sounds cool, let's do it, and then it comes in the level and it's like, oh, this is really awesome. And then sometimes you go like, okay, it's like well, let's say an environment artist puts up a cool poster somewhere, and like, hey, that's cool, it's on this wall, so I should make an NPC go and look at that.
Yeah.
So, and then maybe if you go look at it, we can add some sort of thing that falls down, or
Right. Okay.
sort of
it
sometimes
kind of
keep building on
snowballs almost. Yeah. Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So that's a look through. I guess in some level, like the development journey, not from the whole thing, just more so from your perspective. I think it's important to stress that, as we touched on, there's lots of people working on the level in various different disciplines, various different departments, coming together to make it work. And we can't have the entire team here talking about their experiences. So from a level design perspective, that was really interesting. One of the other things that I think about the level that would be really cool to show is, obviously it's Sniper Assassin, so the actual rifle that 47 uses. This time around, it's actually a different one that was in all of the screenshots that you had. I think that was the rifle from Himmelstein.
Yes.
In those shots, so the actual rifle came in later, which is the Druzhna 34, I think it's pronounced. But this is like a unique ICA variant of the rifle that looks super, super cool. This is actually one of the shots that players will see in the menu to represent the mode. It's a really, really cool rifle, which obviously has the 3 ammo types that people might remember from Himmelstein. So there is body piercing ammo, which is the so-called default ammo. Then there's the shockwave ammo, which kind of leaves an explosion of some kind. And then there is the wall piercing ammo, aka wall bang ammo, which is in. And then as you play the level in co-op, I think one thing that's really cool that really splits the strategies is, depending on which character you've chosen, they each get one of the special ammos. Yeah. So I might get, what's it called? The explosive rounds. I've already forgotten the name. There's wall piercing, and what's the other one? Shockwave ammo. Shockwave. So I might have shockwave, but you'll have the wall piercing, wall bang ammo, which really kind of sets up the strategies that you can do for co-op. And I know there's a few kind of co-op cool things that we talked about before that we were kind of waiting for players to explore. So I know Bjarne is super keen on keeping spoilers to a minimum, right? Yes. Your jam is let people go out, let players find stuff, let them experiment, try and figure out what's happening. So we're going to respect your wishes this time, Bjarne, and keep so much of it as we can down. So the rifle is one thing, but also the targets, I think, are extremely interesting. And you talked about how we used to have the Yardbirds with the targets, and then these guys come in. That must be quite an experience when suddenly you've got entirely new targets that look as awesome, and I think they're quite dramatic and bold characters. I actually have a little bit of info about them. This is Lom Kwai. This guy, he's a decorated army captain. And he's known as a man who wants to get things done. He's quite ruthless. And I think a good thing to mention is that all 3 of the targets, they're all part of the military elite known as the Heavenly Guard. So these guys, they seriously know what they're doing. One of the other targets, if we go to the next one, I think it should be Jin Nu, who is known as the Blade. You probably saw this guy in the trailer with like the yellow neck scarf, I think it is, or he's got something yellow on him. He's walking around with obviously the blade, right? That's where he gets the nickname from. Is it a neck scarf? I think it was. Yeah, it is a neck scarf. Another really kind of imposing character. He was a decorated colonel in the Heavenly Guard, and he actually heads up the 7th Special Forces group. So I looked up the intel this morning, so it's a little bit rough for me as well. But really powerful targets that we have. And the last target is Rethak. She's counterintelligence. She was actually recruited by the Blade. Or recruited is a soft word. If you read the intel for the targets, you'll read more about them there. And it was actually, we show a little bit of the hostage situation. And she was the one that got the intelligence about the location of the guy who was in witness protection, so that they could actually go and kidnap them. So all 3 of these targets had quite an influential role in kind of the kidnap, and that's why they're your targets, right? You've got to take them down before they essentially execute the targets back in their country. So there's a lot of interesting things going on with these targets.
There's a lot of backstory.
I definitely recommend people check out the the intel, the bios for the targets. The writing team here do an awesome job on tying it all together, and even characters from, I think it's from season 1, the guys that you see on the phone. Trent Poe, I think he's on the phone to Dahlia, or Dahlia, he's there and talks to Dahlia, and it's his country and he kind of family ties there, and it all ties together. There's so many of the kind of overall arching story of the game that is kind of told in these different modes and different maps. It's a really, really cool thing. So players have got a lot to dive into there to see what's happening with the targets.
It does tie into the existing characters in the universe.
Yeah, which is really cool. All right, so we've talked a little bit about Hantu Port. We've talked about a bit of the journey of how it got to being released tomorrow. One thing that we would also like to show on the stream is the March game update. So if we look at the roadmap, just to kind of place that amongst everyone so they know where it is, we've got the March roadmap, which we put out every month. And obviously, Sniper Assassin mode is front and center of that, alongside all of the other content that we've got coming out. So one of the big highlights alongside Hantu Port is on Thursday this week, we have a new escalation contract with an unlock of the El Matador hand cannon, the drug lord gun, as Clemens likes to call it. And this is one of the first weapons we've had as an unlockable from escalation contract outside of the Game of the Year edition escalation. So this is really interesting for players to get their hand on that. Do you remember the striker from the Game of the Year edition? Or have you played it in Colombia, the Matador?
I played around with the Matador, cheating a little bit in the editor, and it's really awesome.
Yeah, it's a beast of a gun.
Yeah, totally.
I think being able to take that with you in your loadout, wherever you want to go, is it's insanely cool. Yeah. And I think it has some of the biggest, like the best range for a hand cannon, despite it being super powerful and loud. It's obviously got some good range on it, so that's a beast for players. Yeah. We also have the March game update. That's one of the highlights, right? So that's coming out tomorrow. So it's when the game update hits, that's when players will be able to download it. If they're expansion pass holders, they'll also be able to download Hantu Port as well, and start playing once the servers are back up, to make sure you get your score on the leaderboards and get your challenge progress done. So that all happens tomorrow. But the game update is something that we know a lot of people look forward to. So I pulled out just a few highlights, and we can leave the March roadmap on the screen. Just quickly looking, chat. Nice gun, but it's not as good as my Feather Duster. That's true. The Feather Duster was the other unlock from the challenge pack from the Butler. I haven't got it yet, but I've seen people having lots of fun with it, throwing it at people, and the little feathers kind of come off it, and it completely knocks them out. So it's a very powerful Feather Duster.
Feather Duster.
So the March game update drops tomorrow with the usual amount of, we've got bug fixes, we've got new features, we've got a few things, but I want to just pull out some highlights of what's included with that. So starting up on PC, we've got DX12 support coming in for PC players using, let's get this right, for all PC players using AMD and Intel DX12 GPUs and on NVIDIA GeForce 900 series or better cards. If that's you can toggle DX12 on in the launcher. We also fixed an issue on PC where motion blur was not working as intended. I saw quite a few discussions about that. So that's cool that that's coming in. There's also two other points that I saw people talking about. These are not necessarily PC specific, but there was an issue where your score might end with 0. We fixed that. And everyone knows about the issue in Mumbai. Did you know about this? If you start in Mumbai at the train station and you skip the little intro, for whatever reason, 47's trousers get like stretched really far back, and he's got like no legs, and it's all sorts of crazy. If you let the little video play, the little fly in as we call it, you're fine. It's okay. It's if you skip that, it can cause issues. So that's already been fixed on PC, I think, and we're fixing it for everybody else as well. So those two things that are coming in. And then on top of that, just because our patch releases have to be kind of, there's always an extra thing to know. On consoles, we will have an additional update that's coming shortly afterwards. The reason for that is we released our February update and there was a change in there for the way that guards will react to a bullet shot. So for example, like a sniper rifle. Yeah. And the idea behind that was to make it so that sniping was a little bit more fun. Because sometimes the guards would kind of know where you were, they'd come after you a bit easy, and it felt a bit unfair. So we thought we'd fix that. But by fixing that, what we also did was we kind of exposed some other issues that there were. And so we fixed them as well. So I think a massive shout out to the AI team that took a lot of feedback from the videos that we saw. A lot of players were reporting videos of, it happens every time. We put out the February update and we say, we've made an improvement to sniping. What's the first thing you go do? You go test it. Yeah. And then on certain edge cases and in certain scenarios, it wouldn't work as we intended it to. So what was happening was people were sniping and then they were leaving the room, and guards were kind of spotting you, saying, "Hey, what are you doing, sir?" And realistically, there's no way they should have known what you just did in a closed room. So the team were looking at this, and there was quite a few issues. There's 5 things related to that. I'm not going to list them all, but we've gone through all of the videos that we saw from players, all of the testing that we've done internally to figure that out, and the AI team have made 5 changes about making sure that civilians and guards don't compromise you, even though they shouldn't know that it was you. There was a thing with security cameras in an area that didn't see you do the crime would kind of still enforce you. Basically, this one fix kind of exposed a few other things that we could not have seen coming. They're fixed. So I'm fully expecting a lot of people to be diving into Sniper again to test how it works. Does it work as intended? And I'm confident that it does. I've seen the before videos and after videos. It's looking good. It's looking good. So that's in. That's coming the following patch. So console players should expect 2 patches. One tomorrow and one later in the week, most likely on Wednesday, but we'll have to wait and see for that. And all of those fixes will be tied into the one for PC players. I think in future streams, we'll look at kind of having a way to visualize some of these changes. It could be that we will actually play and show players how it's different. That could be one really interesting way to do it. But I think giving the information, that's what we have right now. The patch will drop tomorrow. And it's the usual maintenance times, so it's 11 UTC until 2 o'clock UTC is when the servers will be down. The game update will come out, and of course that comes with support for Hantu port as well. So that is the March game update. There's one other thing that we promised players, which was, looking at my notes here, which was a sneak peek look ahead to the April roadmap. But I just saw we had some questions, so I'm going to jump to 2 questions. There's a comment that says, great designs. I'm assuming that's the targets?
Yeah, for the targets and the rifle.
Targets and the rifle. Clement's in the background there, if you can hear him coming through. That's great. Clement is our man checking chat today. So since we just did patch notes, there's a question about, is there any news on the Sonnet Assassin tracker? That's not coming in the March game update. It's more than likely going to be in the April game update. We were working on that, and depending on certain updates, like certain settings you had toggled, I think, that was triggering it to appear for some people early, but with no way to turn it off. So what we have fixed is now that it's gone, because it shouldn't have been there anyway. So people weren't left with a little icon that they were trying to guess how it was working, what was going on with it. We've taken that out, which is where it should have been. And there's a question about the wetsuit. So background information on the wetsuit is that we usually do every elusive target lets you unlock a suit based on the location that you're in. That wasn't the case for Hawke's Bay. The wetsuit was not attached to the elusive, but we are coming up with a really interesting way to allow you guys to unlock that. So that's coming, but not
hype.
Wetsuit hype, but not in the March game update. So don't expect it anytime soon. But we know people want it, and we also want to give you it. We just need to find a way to do it. And we have ideas, but Bjarne can tell you how this is. The idea is one thing, actually getting it into the game and releasing it and getting through all of those steps is something else. And we want to do it in a cool way. We want to do it in a way that ties a few things together. So like I said, there are ideas, and we'll get there. Clemens is keeping an eye on chat questions, so if there are any, make sure you put them in chat, and we'll get them in front of Bjarne. If there are any for Hantu port specific or level design or of anything that you've been talking about. We're here for questions, so throw them at us. Clemens is laughing. I'm not sure that's a question we want. No, that's not a question that we want. But what we do want to do is, so while we show you this next thing, if you throw questions at us, then we can maybe spend a few minutes doing some questions before we wrap up. Is we want to look ahead at the April content. So if Clemens can pop that up for us, then we can tell you exactly what we're going to show you, just so I can make sure that we get it in the right order. So we want to look ahead now to past the March roadmap, looking ahead to the April roadmap, and there is a challenge pack that's included in the April roadmap that will take you to Mumbai. Yeah, so that's the order, right? So we are talking about Mumbai, yeah? So we're going to have a challenge pack in Mumbai with the new unlock, which you'll find out when the roadmap drops. It's based around the Holy Man. That's 47 as the Holy Man. Awesome screenshot there. And there's what we're trying to do. If you hold fire, Clemens, if you've not pulled the bullet yet, right? What we're trying to do with our roadmaps going forward is trying to look at how we can kind of theme them, how we can make them feel kind of connected in many different ways. So, for example, we did the February game update that came with featured contracts that were Valentine's Day, because February, and in March we did ones related around luck, kind of St. Patrick's Day themed. We're always looking at the month, what's happening in that month, what content is coming out. The theme that we are thinking ahead of to April is ghost mode. So there are some pretty big, exciting, there's some pretty big announcements about ghost mode that's coming. We are adding ghost mode into Colombia. So anyone who's got Colombia can jump in. They can experience this new mode. There are some awesome new items. There are some awesome new challenges that we will allow the release notes to talk about. We will maybe even have some of the people that helped design them and make them come on the stream and talk about that specifically. But we wanted to give everyone watching a heads up that towards the end of next month, we will be releasing Ghost Mode on Colombia, if all goes well. Of course, we're a month ahead. Things can still change. We are 99.9% sure that it's going to happen, but the patch has to go through. It has to get approved and certified, and we have to be happy with it. But it's in a great place, and I think I saw Clemens doing hype. I am expecting there's a lot of people that are very happy with that.
Oh, that's all.
If you are talking about the suit that you can see, that is not a suit that's in the game yet. That is potentially a suit that you will have the chance to unlock. But we're not going to tell you any more about that yet. We still want to have some information for our roadmap, for our next stream. We're kind of trying to find the balance between telling people what's coming up and also leaving that time to talk about the reveals when we get there. So that's what's coming up in April. It's Ghost Mode, some big updates for Ghost Mode, headlined by the fact that Santa Fortuna is going to be the next location for Ghost Mode, which I think is super cool.
Super cool.
And 47 in this render looking also awesome. So we are getting close to wrapping up. We kind of expected about a 45-minute stream. The question is, Bjarne, and this is your call. The question is, as we focus back on Hantu port to end the stream. First of all, if there's any questions, Clemens, throw them our way. Secondly, do you want to load Hantu port and just show people what it looks like to load in or not?
I think that would be cool, yeah.
Okay.
So should we watch the briefing first or just go straight in?
Let's launch the mission first and then we'll end with the briefing. Should we do that? So it's kind of in reverse. I know I've got the briefing highlighted. That's not what I want to do. So if we can put the game up on the screen, what we're going to do is we're going to launch for... there you go. You can see the rifle. You can see Agent 47. And I want to make sure I get this right. So what we're going to do is we're not going to play. I want to set expectations. We're not going to play the level. We're going to honor your wishes, Bjarne, not spoil anything. What we want to do is kind of bring a wrap up to the conversation we had earlier about the process that we went through, or that you went through with the team, and show players what that looks like when they will launch the game. So as I hit play now, we're going to load through. The briefing won't play. We're going to show you the briefing at the end. So you can see the targets, you can see the objectives, of course, the bodyguards as well as the targets, and the hostages must survive. So this is what it will look like the first time you launch Hantu Port, as it comes in and sets the scene of Agent 47 taking up his spot.
Yeah. Oh, it's gorgeous. Ta-da.
So there we go. After the process that you talked us through, this is the end result with
finished level.
The objectives right, the location completely done in terms of level design, art, animation, gameplay, audio, everything that you mentioned, and
ready to be explored.
Everything that was included in this. We are going to leave it there. We're just going to leave it to sit. There's two questions that I saw about mission stories, or what were previously known as opportunities, making their way into Sniper Assassin. Did you ever think about that? No. I know it was never. They are kind of in the campaign missions, but is it ever something you've considered, or do you think it could work? Without making any promises, of course.
No promises at all.
No.
But I mean, we haven't talked about it. I'm not sure I think it would work as well, since it's very much sort of a help or a way to tell a story.
Yeah.
And Sniper Assassin is more of an arcadey game mode, right? So having mission stories entangled in that might just be noise in a sense, right?
Okay.
But that was a never.
Yeah.
Never. Maybe one day.
Yeah. There's lots of requests to zoom in. We're not going to zoom in. We want to keep the shot here, and we want to just let you get a sense of the location without giving too much of it away. The only other thing that we will mention is there was a question about new achievements for Hantu Port. There are new achievements and trophies for all platforms. Okay. So let's close down Hantu Port. Let's take that away. I can also pause to avoid showing too much there. Thank you, Diana. There are new trophies. I think it's 7. Also achievements depending on your platform. So yeah, they will be added to the game alongside the March game update. I keep getting confused between March and April. The March game update, which is coming tomorrow, they will be added. You might even start to see them already now on certain platforms. We have to populate them. They have to go out ahead of time. That's just how it works. So if you're seeing on certain websites that they're there. They're coming out for you. I'm going to ask Clemens one last time if there's any questions. If there's not, we've got one thing to leave you with, and then we will be wrapping up the stream.
When will the full roadmap come out for next month?
Okay, that's a very good question. So the April roadmap is due to land roughly the middle of next week. We are probably thinking maybe Wednesday. And we're also doing that roadmap in a slightly different way too. We spent a lot of time thinking about how we talk about our monthly activities, and we want to basically give a different way to show that. You'll still have the regular roadmap. There's just something else coming along with it that is a pretty new way for us to do it. And Clemens can maybe talk about that next month, how that went down. So next week is the April roadmap. Yes, cool. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you for watching us go through our first IOI monthly stream. A few bumps in the road, but you know, these things happen, and ultimately we're going to get better at doing this. But I think it was a very, very good start. I'm very happy with the format. But most importantly, I think we need to get feedback from our players, from our viewers, and see how this goes. We are also going to make it an archive on Twitch, so you can watch it back if you missed it. Spread the word on Twitter, Reddit, wherever you are, about the live streams. And of course, let us know what else you would like to see in them as we move forward through each month. Bjarne, I also want to say thank you to you.
No problem.
For taking the time to take screenshots all those months ago that we didn't know would be useful for a live stream, but turned out that way. And also just for kind of talking through this. I imagine there might be some questions that come up after a chat or on Twitter and things like that. If there's anything super interesting, we'll be chasing you down to try and get some answers. Yeah. But I think players will be quite busy tomorrow playing Hantu Port.
I hope so.
So it's Hantu Port available in the expansion pass. and it's only available in the expansion pass. It's not going to be released separately. So if you want to be playing this, start looking at the expansion pass options that you have. And of course, the expansion pass is included in the gold edition. So if you haven't bought any of Hitman yet, that's probably the best way to go if you want to experience Hantu port. So yeah, thank you, Bjarne. The last thing that we're going to leave you with, which will have audio,
Yes.
is we want to leave you with the full mission briefing for Hantu port. It's super cool. I think there will be lots of raising the roof and lots of hype. We will leave you with that, and we'll see you next month on the stream. Thank you and goodbye.
You're on still because there's an issue. Sorry, guys.
There's an issue? There's an issue, so we're still on. We need to stop doing such dramatic thank you and goodbyes.
It does sit very still.
We can do that. Like, let's pretend the stream is frozen. And as soon as we're ready, we'll go. But yeah, we can recap then while we're here. So this stream, we talked about Hantu port. Mm-hmm. We talked about the process of going through it with yourself. We talked about the March roadmap and what's included in that. Some of the highlights from the game update that's coming tomorrow alongside Hantu port. Plus, we looked all the way ahead to April with Ghost Mode, Santa Fortuna. It should be a lot of fun. And I can imagine us doing maybe a live stream with some gameplay of that, maybe ahead of the April game update. So this time next month, roughly, it could be a nice thing to try and do. It would have to be internal, which would be fun because it's unreleased, so we can't have players doing it, which we did before. We had Clemens face off against Mendy, and Mendy won. I think it was 2 in a row. Clemens is nodding sadly. Yeah, so we can think about putting some gameplay in. But we're ready now to leave you with the full briefing.
Yes.
The full mission briefing. Clemens is nodding. The full mission briefing for Hantu port coming up. Let's go.
We hope.
It's back. You're back, guys.
We're back?
Yeah, but I'm sorry.
Is it not
weird.
Doesn't want to play or what?
No, it will play, but it's the format is super weird.
Meaning what? It's stretched?
Very small, up in the corner.
Okay, that's not good.
No.
All right, so we'll give you another minute. If you can't do it, then it's the ultimate tease.
Yeah.
It's just we want to show you this thing, but it's either super small or not at all, and we're not doing it super small, so it's not at all.
Oh, that would be a shame.
No. Did you watch the Ghost Mode stream with Clemens and Mendy? I'm getting thumbs up again, but I don't believe you, Clemens. I'm gonna let Bjarne finish the question or the answer. Did you see the stream?
I think I missed it.
Yeah. Oh, you should watch
I
it
heard
back.
about the result.
It's yeah. Everyone heard the result.
Everybody
there was a mail to the whole studio about, hey, look what happened.
I almost won. Now
Right.
it should work.
Clemens, take it away.
Former Kandanyang national poet, has been kidnapped from his suburban home. Ledong defected to the US during a meeting at the United Nations some years ago and has been living under witness protection ever since. Your targets are Jin Nu, Lom Kwai, and Ri Thak, 3 key members of Sun Po's military elite known as the Heavenly Guard. The 3 are in Singapore to secure Mr. and Mrs. Ledong, who've been smuggled from the US in a shipping container. The Ledongs are expected to be transported back to Kandanyang for a public execution to celebrate the birthday of the country's dictator, Sun Po. The targets are preparing to transfer Ledong and his wife to an awaiting cargo ship. The 3 are under orders not to allow Han Ledong to escape again, so keep this one quiet, 47. Should the alarm be raised, We expect one or more of the targets to try to eliminate the hostages. They must survive for the mission to be a success. Good luck.